Hello there. Having encouraged you to create a backup of your files, I'm going to show you the most effective way I have found for maintaining an up-to-date backup of my files. Now, if you're one of the people who's not interested in creating a backup of your files, or if you're one of the people who already has a protocol in place for backing up your files, then you can skip this presentation. Though if you stick around, you'll learn how I organize my files to make it easy to find exactly what I'm looking for. Now, my process begins with a flash drive. I create a master backup of all the files in my academic life at SFA on this flash drive. That way, I have everything in one place, and I don't have to go looking around multiple places. In addition to that flash drive, I have two other flash drives. One for each of the professors I work for, and they serve a dual purpose. First, they give me a tertiary backup of all of the items that pertain to that professor. So the syllabi for the classes I'm helping them on, the data I've collected in their lab. That way, I have an even smaller chance of losing their data, because I just feel terrible if I lost somebody else's data. And losing your data is pretty bad to begin with, so that really is a terrible feeling. And then the second purpose for these flash drives is sometimes you don't want to transfer things through email, or you can't transfer things through email or a cloud service. So for one professor, I needed to transfer a program that was coded in JavaScript, and JavaScript does not like being emailed or uploaded to the cloud very much. Sometimes it introduces errors into the code, and so we used a flash drive for that. Another time, the professor needed to transfer a PDF of a textbook they were using to me, and so they put it on a flash drive. And since that has all the information on it about that professor, just like this, even if that one is gone, I can still work on that professor's assignments for me uninterrupted, even if they have their flash drive. Now, let's take a look at what my master backup looks like. And the astute among you will notice that I am not plugging this into the computer. This is because I have two USB type A ports on this computer, and one is being used for audio right now and the other is being used for video, so I can't plug it in. So I have just created a copy of this on my desktop to show you. Now, inside I have 4 different folders right now. Next semester there will be a 5th one. The semester after that a 6th one, and potentially more depending on my needs. The first is doctoral application materials. So the materials that I will need when applying to PhD programs or to any graduate programs, though I will not be applying to another master's program. I don't see a point in having 2 masters and trying as a way to get to a PhD. Just my opinion. But this has my CV, diplomas, information about the GRE, statements of purpose, my transcripts, anything that a grad school application would ask for or someone who's writing a letter of recommendation for me might ask for. We go back here. We have fall and spring. If we look at the spring, because it's newer, I have a couple of loose items, things that didn't fit into any of the major categories, and there weren't so many of them that I felt they needed their own folder, because each of these would have their own folder, because one is an ethics, an IRB that I submitted for a project, and the other is a travel funds submission for a grant. But each of these folders up here pertains to one of the classes I took that semester. So if we just look at multivariate, you'll see, well, I have copies of my assignments, so things that I submitted and the working drafts of that. And sometimes I do save multiple copies of things because I want to have an older version that I can revert back to if I need to. Then another set of folders with multivariate articles. So these are the articles that the professor assigned. So if I was looking for the one on Bayes, I could find it right there. Or if I was looking for problems with null hypothesis significance testing, I could find all the articles that pertain to that. Because if I just had all, 15 or 20 of these articles just in here, it would be difficult for me to go through and figure out which was which without having to click on a whole bunch of things. And the ones for cognitive and teaching seminar are the same general purpose as multivariate. And fall of 19 is basically the same as spring of 2020. And will be basically the same thing in fall of 2020. Now, the only other one in here is interesting is syllabi. And so this is probably supposed to be in my doctoral application materials, but I've kept it out mostly because I use it a whole lot more than the other ones, which shows you just how little I use my doctoral application materials right now. Just minor updates here and there. But when you're transferring classes, like I would if I get into a doctoral program, they won't just rely on the transcripts. Often they'll ask for the course catalog listing or the syllabus to determine if the course you took that has the same name as their course is really equivalent. Did the course you take on psychopathology use the DSM-4 or the DSM-5? Because we've been on the DSM-5 for a while now, so if you've taken it over the DSM-4, it doesn't apply as much, so they might not transfer it in. There's things like that. So that is how I keep my documents organized. Now, for the documents on my school computer, I typically just transfer these over by hand instead of the way I'm about to show you, because it's difficult for me to download things onto that computer. I'd have to contact IT, submit a work order for that, then get them to come in and log into my computer and install something for me, and it's quite honestly more work than it's worth for me. And so I just transfer things by hand. But how on my own computer, I use something called FreeFileSync. Now, this is a wonderful program that's out there. I believe it's part of the free software movement, but essentially it lets me take my documents and I can select a folder. So if we go to, well, we'll show you just on the other one, but I have the syllabi area pulled up. So that's this right here that we were just looking at. We pull FreeFileSync back up. I'm going to pick somewhere to put it. And so, I don't know. Let's just put it in downloads. But if we put it in downloads, I can compare what's going on. And so it'll tell me what files are in the original document that I've selected over here. So you see them here. What files are in my destination. And then what do I want to do? So I could just set it up to mirror it so that everything that's in spot 1 goes to spot 2 and everything that's in spot 2 goes to spot 1. Or I could set it up to mirror so that what's on spot 1 goes to spot 2. Update, so what goes into spot 1 goes into spot 2. And I just use update. And I will synchronize my files that way. So I just hit synchronize. It gives me a little update that says it's going to be 3 megabytes, 7 files are going to get moved over. Go ahead and hit start. It shows me the progress. These are all Word documents, so it's very quick. Little ding and we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and leave a link in the description for where you can get a copy of this software. You can donate to them if you want. If you don't, the software is free. It's really useful, though not useful enough for me to want to go through the process of figuring out who to send a work order to and finding that information and then waiting for IT to install it. But that's because I have a relatively small number of files I'm dealing with on this. So I don't need this file. If I was dealing with a whole lot more files than I am, I would certainly have this installed. Now, that is how I keep track of my backups. That's how I keep it up to date, especially on my personal computers where I try to do the maximum amount of work possible because I know how old it is, I know its history, as opposed to my school computer that I know very little about, and I'm more worried about it crashing or something being done to it that causes me to lose data. And so, hopefully, this gives you a workable solution for how you can back up your data, or at least how to organize your data so it's easy to find what you're looking for. And until next time, cheers.